Everybody, it's Lee Karaher, and this is Everything Speaks, where we talk about how everything you do and say speaks for you, if you wanted to or not. And today, I'm recording this outside in Healdsburg, California, where I am for the week, because it's a beautiful day. And since back home, it is -5, that I take advantage of it. Today, we're going to talk about who speaks, why the right person has to deliver bad news. They should be delivering good news too, but the right person needs to be delivering bad news. And that is always uncomfortable, right? Let's start with the obvious thing. No one wants to do it. Bad news is part of leadership. It's not the fun part. It's not the LinkedIn announcement with comments turned off part. It's the actual human uncomfortable, look someone in the eyes part. And that's how it should be. I'm using the word should, I don't like that word. But when someone delivers bad news who really doesn't have the authority to do that, all you're doing is creating just bad juju, right? And I've seen a lot of this in the last month or so. I'm recording this in the beginning of January 2026, and then all the layoffs that happened in December. If you're on the corporate side of TikTok, you know what I'm talking about. Everyone's recording these things now. They're recording being laid off. They're recording being fired. They're recording all the pieces. And what comes through is that no one does this well. It's just, ugh. But when the right person is delivering the bad news, it goes over a lot better than when the leader or the person who should deliver the bad news delegates it away. Right? And so when we think about that, and we think about how things happen, and we'll just talk about getting laid off, right? So if you think about the last couple of months, been so many stories of people learning they have lost their jobs from a calendar invite that HR person put on their calendar that this person they never met. HR, they'd never met this person. It's a Slack message forwarded by someone 3 layers removed from you. You've never met that person. Down the chain. A manager who found out 5 minutes earlier that they had to fire somebody and was handed a script. Are you kidding me? So not only did someone lose their job, which sucks, right? They also lost any remaining respect for the organization that they might have had. And the company lost an advocate, a potential person who would bring new talent, bring new partners, bring new sales to that organization. And here's the part that, in the rush to get it done, and they're like, oh, let's just pull the Band-Aid off. Let's just make this happen. Oh my God. Here's the part that leaders underestimate every single time is that people, humans, not the AI bots, they might too though, who knows? They have long memories. So set yourself up for success even in a bad news situation, right? So let's just talk about a couple of things. So a few myths, right? The myth, we're just following the process. When bad news rolls downhill, instead of coming from the person responsible, it's usually wrapped up a nice, tidy excuse. We're just following the process, or HR handles this, or legal told us to do this way. Now, hello. You know what I'm going to say about that? It's butter coming from their manager. No, these aren't reasons. These are shields. And everyone on the receiving end knows it. I mean, this is not rocket science. It's uncomfortable science, but it's not rocket science. Because what they're really hearing is someone higher up made this decision and didn't have the courage to own it. Everything speaks on this, and avoidance speaks really loudly. So what actually happens when you pass the buck? Let's talk about the downstream damage on that, because it's real. It actually impacts you. When the wrong person delivers bad news, the message feels impersonal, the organization feels cowardly, trust evaporates instantly. So the people who are left behind are just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Survivors notice, hello, and they file it away back here going, let's see if I see these signs again, I know what's going to happen. And alumni of your organization talk, and they don't ever forget. You don't just lose the employee, you're letting go. You lose the future referrals, the employer brand credibility, the benefit of the doubt, and your moral high ground. I always tell my staff in difficult situations where maybe, it's just a tough situation where there's different points of view and blame goes around. I'm like, we are strapping on the oxygen tank. We are taking the high ground, even if we need an oxygen tank up there, because long term it's easier. Short term, we know what we're doing. We're strapping it on, taking deep breaths, pure oxygen, high ground, because it always works out better in the end, every single time. And then basically later, when you've lost all these things, you're going to lose the right to say later, we don't know why this happens. Why is it so hard to hire? We know why, because of how badly you fired someone and how, because you had the wrong person do it, no one's trusting the organization. Layoffs don't end jobs. They create stories, and they definitely create TikToks really fast. And here's the thing that leaders consistently miss. They remember the moment. Humans remember the moment. They remember who showed up, who didn't show up, who hid behind a policy, who treated them like a human. And that story gets told at dinner tables and group texts, on Slack channels, at their next job, in interviews. When people ask, why'd you leave? Like, you have a survivor who didn't get laid off or didn't get fired, and they're back and they go get a new job and say, why are you looking for them? Well, let me tell you about how they got rid of people. Reputation isn't built in an all hands when revenue is up. Reputation is built in the first 5 minutes of the worst 5 minutes of someone's career. And you only get one shot at that moment. So responsibility of this means showing up, especially when it sucks. So let's be clear. If you made the decision, if you approved the budget, if you signed off on the strategy, if you benefited from the upside, then you own the downside. You don't outsource humanity on this. You don't send a proxy to absorb the emotional impact for you. And you definitely don't disappear because it's too hard. That's not leadership. I had someone tell me that was organizational malpractice. Sometimes you hear that, but it's better coming from their manager, isn't it? Is it? Sometimes yes, most of the time no. And here's the difference on that. If the manager was part of the decision, if the manager had real input, if the manager can answer questions honestly, and if the manager is empowered to speak plainly and not given a script from legal so they don't get sued, then that's fine. That makes sense. But if the manager's just reading a script, learning about it in real time, unable to explain the why, and carrying the emotional weight for someone else, now you've added insult to injury, and you've turned the bad news into a true demolition exercise, for lack of a better term. I have been in that position in former, not my own, obviously, but in former roles where someone basically were getting rid of people. They handed me a script 10 minutes before I had to go in and deliver the message to people who were in my realm, but were not my direct reports. I had no responsibility for, but because I was the ranking person, they wanted me to do it. Except I didn't make any of those decisions. And the people I was talking to knew it. I mean, it's not that hard to figure it out, right? So what people actually need in bad moments, when someone hears bad news, they're not listening for the polish. They're listening for the ownership, the respect, the clarity, and the accountability. And they were going to remember, was I treated like a person? Did someone have the courage to look me in the eye? That's a hard one. Did the organization stand behind this decision? And the messenger answers all of that. Who delivers the message? The messenger delivers all that before a single word is said. Who shows up? The leader. The long game that leaders forget is that when they duck the bad news, they're screwing their future. You will hire again. Eventually, may not be at this company, could be at another one. You will need trust, referrals, alumni goodwill. I may have written a book about that, the boomerang principle. Our reputation for decency under pressure. It's not going to get any easier. Here we are in 2026. Do we imagine that this year is going to be easier than last year, which was harder than the year before? It's not going to get easier. We have to build resilience on this. We have to build the willingness to be the messenger for good and bad, right? And when you let people go today, they become future candidates. They've become future clients. They become future partners. They become future reputation carriers or potentials for all that. Because they may self-select themselves out if they weren't treated well, if the right person didn't deliver that message, if it was a proxy for leadership and all those, it was just a bad taste. You losing your job is a bad taste, but how you losing your job is really where the taste sits, right? And you won't have future referrals. You won't have future clients. I've seen it before. We've had clients over time and they lost their jobs and they brought our agency in with them when they left. And part of it was they'd had to get rid of us, but that person brought us with because they didn't have they had to get rid of us for reasons that weren't germane to our performance. That's a whole nother story. I should do a whole series on that. But they brought us along and we brought them candidates and they were and we found them people to partner with. And if you're in business long enough, if you're the glue, the connection, don't screw that. Don't screw that. People need to know that we're acting with integrity. And it really only happens when the right person shows up. If you should be the messenger and you should, your gut is telling you, be the damn messenger. If you're responsible, be responsible. If you're accountable, be accountable. If your absence would be noticed, there you go. People aren't going to miss me. Yeah, they are. If you're the right person, no delegation, no disappearing act. Presence is the message. So, final thoughts on this. Everything speaks, especially who hides in bad news. It shows who takes responsibility. It shows who respects people. And it shows that who understands that leadership isn't just the upside. Everything speaks, the words, the timing, the tone, and especially who shows up to deliver it. So if you're facing bad news and you're tempted to push it down or push it to the side, or I'll just have someone else just handle it because you just don't want to deal with it, that's the moment you need to step forward. Because leadership doesn't disappear when things get hard. Leadership shows up and talks when it finally counts. All right, everybody. But on that break note, if you're thinking about it and you think, oh, I should do that, I don't want to, that's when you should. Until next time, I'm Lee Caraher, and this is Everything Speaks.